Hi, guys. This is Mrs. Lamb, and today I am going to talk to you about budgeting. And so, balance is a skill that is absolutely critical to the game of football. Players must master precise interplay between their hands and the ball and be able to navigate through and around their opponents toward the end zone. Balance is just as essential to successfully managing your money. You need to develop and maintain a balance between where your money comes from and where your money goes. You can then compare these and see if they are in balance. If you are spending more money than you are making through part-time jobs or allowance from your parents, etc., your budget is out of balance and you will have a difficult time saving money and reaching your financial goals. So today the goals that I have for you are that I want you to identify and examine current spending habits, identify the various expenses associated with living independently, that means by yourself, determine the difference between a need and a want, and understand the relationship between a budget and saving goals. A budget is a financial plan that takes a person's income, which is the money that they earn, and determines where all of that money is spent. It's an effective way to see if you are spending too much on certain items or if you could be saving more money than you currently are. Where does your money come from? So, income is money that you gain. It could be through an allowance, birthday, Christmas, part time job. Expenses is where your money goes. So you got to think about, what do you spend your money on? How much do you spend every month? What patterns do you see in your spending habits and behaviors? Why do you buy the things that you buy, and what influences your decisions? This is just an example of typical adult household expenses by percentage of money. So, most people spend about 30% of their income each month on paying for their housing, whether that be their rent or their mortgage payment on their home. 18% is typically spent on transportation. So that could be, various expenses associated with owning a car, or, if you live in a big city and you're constantly paying a taxi cab to take you places. 16% on food, and then you can read the rest for yourself. All right, so what is the difference between a need and a want? Needs are monthly expenses that are associated with goods and services that keep your life stable. They are things typically that you need in order to survive. Okay, so things like food, shelter, clothing, things of that nature. Wants are goods and services that are not essential to daily living, but they often are things that make people happy, or they make life seem a little bit more enjoyable. So that could be stuff like, smartphone, maybe super expensive shoes. You don't actually need them, but of course you want them. Going on vacations and trips. It's not a need for survival, but it sure does make life more enjoyable. Fixed versus variable expenses. Fixed expenses are expenses that are the same every month. So things like your rent, your car payment, those don't typically change. Variable expenses do change. The word variable means that it varies or that it changes. So I don't know if you've ever looked at your parents' electric bill or gas bill, but those change depending on how much electricity you use, how much you use your air conditioning or heat. Grocery bill will be different probably every time you go. Gasoline for your car. So certain expenses are the same every month. You know what your rent is every single month. And certain ones you don't know, and you have to kind of estimate. Discretionary spending is money that you spend on something you want that you don't necessarily need. So it's your fun money. It's stuff that's for like going out to eat, going to the movies, going on vacation. That's all considered discretionary. So finding the balance. To determine how balanced your budget is, you simply need to add up all of your income and subtract all of your expenses. The figure that you arrive at is your net gain or loss. If the net amount is positive, that's a good sign. That means that you're living within your means. It also means that you could save more. And experts recommend that you should save at least 10% of your income. Now, if your net amount is negative, that means you're spending more than what you make and you're going into debt, and that is not a good thing. So if you're operating at a loss, you will have to find ways to trim the expense side of your budget, or you need to increase your income, or both. So sometimes you might have to, work more hours so that you make more money for what you want to buy. Or sometimes you just have to cut your spending if that's not an option. Consistency is the key to successful budgeting. So just like football players must practice to keep their skills sharp and their bodies in shape, it's important not to let your budget get flabby. Reviewing it each month is the only way to ensure that you are managing your money wisely. Okay, is this a fixed expense, variable expense, or discretionary expense? So you remember, fixed stays the same every month, variable fluctuates, and discretionary is your fun money. A magazine and a soda. What is it? It is discretionary spending because it is not a need. How about this month's rent? Fixed, variable, or discretionary? It is a fixed expense because it stays the same every month. Fixed, variable, or discretionary, dinner at a restaurant. So you need to eat, but do you necessarily need to eat in a restaurant, or do you just want to eat in a restaurant? The answer is it is discretionary spending because it is a want. It's actually a lot more expensive to go out to eat than it is to go to the grocery store. Fixed, variable, or discretionary spending. Mobile phone bill. Well, it could be variable or discretionary spending. The reason why I say that is variable if you don't have any other phone. Like I, for instance, do not even have a home phone. I just have my mobile phone. So it is kind of a need. So I would consider it a variable expense. My bill does kind of fluctuate depending on, how much data I use and things like that. Discretionary would be like, say you're a kid, for instance, like you guys are, and your parents have a phone at the house, and it's really just makes life more convenient for you to have a phone, but maybe it's not an actual need. That might be considered discretionary. Okay, how about school books? So the books that, say you're in college and you have to buy textbooks for your classes, fixed, variable, or discretionary. It would be considered a variable expense because you really do probably need them for the classes. How about a monthly bus pass? So assuming you don't own a car, maybe you live in the city, and you're paying for a bus pass so that you can go places. That's probably a fixed expense because it's probably the same all of the time, and it probably is a need. You can't walk everywhere all of the time, especially in this cold weather. How about your heating bill? Fixed, variable, or discretionary? It is a variable expense. It changes depending on how much you're using it. Downloadable songs for a mobile device. So say you get on Amazon and you're paying to download music. Is that fixed, variable, or discretionary? That is considered discretionary spending. A new pair of running shoes. Fixed, variable, or discretionary? Well, it's technically a variable expense. most likely because